Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Soul Focus Radio. This is your host, Martin Teddy Bear Moses Friedman, and I'm here with Ragivah Mahdi, stepping into our full Teddy Bear Mosesness and Ragivah-ness. What's happening, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to hear your voice. Good to be in this energy. You know, the flow, what things are in the universe. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Glad to be able to hear the voices of people that are hearing our voice, because we do a lot of listening. And that's the reason why we do these podcasts, because we listen to a lot of what people say and giving you what you want, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, yeah, it's great to talk to you, man. It's been a minute since we've done these, and I've really been enjoying doing the series on meeting all of our facilitators. It's been really awesome to get to know people, some who I already knew, who I'm just getting to know. And, you know, I really wanted to touch base with you, too. I wanted to have a conversation about a couple things with you, and then we'll get back to the meet our facilitators, the following week. But man, we just jumped into it, and I'm like, I've got to hit record because, we immediately started talking. Like, you said something, you said that the world's not going to end; it's going to Zen, right? Talk about that. I've never heard that before. I get it in a sense, but I want you to talk about that.
I'm gonna tell you where I heard that from.
Yeah.
My brother Bilal from out of New Orleans, who was one of those voices out in the world doing, a spiritual teacher, a very powerful spiritual teacher.
Yes.
One day he called me up and he says, the world is not coming to an end. The world is coming to Zen. And the reason why he told me that was because I shared with him this idea I had called a clear head, right?
Yeah.
And a clear head is this idea that your head is clear when you have a clear view of yourself. And I had a logo designed because I want to make it into an app. In fact, we're going to make it into an app. It's one of my visions. And the app would look like a person in meditation. They sit in a meditation position. Mm-hmm. And that inspired him to say, the world is not coming to an end, it's coming to Zen. Mm. And Zen being the way of peace, establishing peace within yourself. And the key to establishing peace in yourself is to have a very beautiful view of you.
Right.
And so when we say the world is coming to Zen, meaning the world is really moving to where, let me take, for example, what is some things, that you did during the pandemic that you didn't do before the pandemic?
Oh my gosh, man, there's so many, but I'll start out with a few, like yoga, physical practice of yoga on a regular basis. Just lost weight, lost more than 60 pounds, changed my eating patterns greatly, did deep work on, exploring and healing from childhood trauma through hypnotherapy. I mean, how long you want me to go, bro? Moved to Florida, man. Moved from Pittsburgh to Florida, left a place that felt depressing to me to live like 20 minutes from the beach with sun 90% of the year. I could keep going. That's just scratching the roots. I mean,
that's beautiful, right? That is absolutely beautiful. What I did is I got some rest, because we, work, traveling all the time, on planes all the time. So got a chance to actually rest, spend more time with my girls, finished 2 books, that's going to be coming out soon. More importantly, I started focusing on unlocking my personality. What a gem. That has been a gem. Because, when I decided to accept my highest self totally, I realized that I would have to unlock my personality. Because the personality I created for myself throughout all the years was a very limited personality out of protection. Now that I'm an adult, have all this power and knowledge, I don't need any protection. So I have to unlock my personality. Anyway, what I was going to say is that COVID gave us a chance to catch up with ourselves. And if people have been in this situation and had all this time to get to know yourself in a way that you haven't gotten to know yourself, and you didn't take advantage of it, shame on you. Because those of us who have taken advantage of it and caught up with ourselves, the world is not going to an end, it's going to Zen. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And also I love the concept of unlocking your personality, right?
Yeah.
And also, what you said, rest, it was also a lot of rest for me too. And it's funny again that I didn't go to that as the first thing, because if it hadn't been for rest, I couldn't have done all those other things. I mean, you and I, we were on the road 90%
I
of
know.
of all of our work was on the road. 90%, man. When I look back and I think about, I flew at least, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 times every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 2019, up through March. And it's pretty wild too, because we're coming up on that anniversary of the beginning of the quarantine for us, of getting off the
Right.
road. I think March
Right.
13th, I was just thinking about this the other day for me. I think you and I were scheduled to do a week's worth of training in Oregon, like the week of like March 15th, March 16th of last year,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that was the first ones that got canceled for us,
You
you
know, you
know?
know what, it reminds me of? It reminds me of Hurricane Katrina.
Hmm.
Because I lived in New Orleans and, prior to Hurricane Katrina. And I remember what the prayers that people were praying. They wanted things to change in New Orleans. They wanted things to be different. I
Right.
used to hear that all the time, all the time, all the
Hmm.
time, right?
Hmm.
And then here comes Hurricane Katrina and brought about drastic change. Whew.
Hmm.
And I also saw people that complained about the change that was brought that I heard them ask for, but
Hmm.
because they didn't catch up with themselves, because Hurricane Katrina gave me a chance to catch up with myself too, gave a lot of people a chance to catch up with themselves.
Hmm.
The pandemic did that, but the world is good at distraction. That's one of the things that we have mastered. We have mastered distracting ourselves, and the world has mastered distracting us. We in a full fledged game of distraction.
Right.
So the pandemic got us a chance, gave us all a chance to cut it down, cut the distraction down to a minimum, so you can really get present to your heartbeat, get present to your thoughts. Find out that your thoughts were not necessarily on your side,
Hmm.
and you started taking action about getting your thoughts to become your ally, not your enemy. For most people, our thoughts, for most of our lives, are our enemy.
Hmm.
So what you saying, what you were telling me about what you did during the pandemic, you were getting your thoughts to
Hmm.
become an ally, more of an ally than an enemy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just something to know
Which
on,
is
something to think about.
so. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there, right? First thing I want to say is, when you talked about Katrina, it made me think of that old phrase, like "careful what you wish for," right, or "careful what you pray
Right,
for."
right,
Right?
right.
Because we don't always get to control the form that those things come to us. I think our thoughts are like, this change is going to come, easy and beautiful, and I'm going to be happy and rich and everything, right? But,
Right.
if we're just praying for the change, you know, and bringing that energy to us, I think that's really powerful. What you're saying, and I do agree with you 100% around the COVID piece, because I think COVID has acted in the same way. Now, I think what's really interesting for me, because this kind of goes a little bit to our conversation before we came on the air, is so much of my thoughts, so many of my thoughts, so much of my thought process to this point in my life has been struggle based. Like,
Mm,
we were talking before we came on that I'm trying to transition away from constantly using the word work, spiritual work,
right,
social justice
right.
work. Do you do the work? We're doing the work here. For those of us that do the work, like, how many times have we said that in the anti-racist phrase, right? And then in the
That's all we
social,
said. That's
right?
all
That's
we
all we say.
said.
And then in the spiritual consciousness movement, it's, well, you got to do your spiritual work. Are you doing your mindfulness work? This is work for me. Like, how come you're not doing this in your life? Well, I'm working on it, right? How come you
Right,
haven't
right,
achieved what you should be achieving? Well, I'm working on it.
right,
And that,
right.
what I'm thinking right now is that's attached to struggle. My whole life has been attached to struggle, you know?
Yeah, yeah. For years, that's been a part of the reason why I'm unlocking my personality,
Mm-hmm.
because of that whole work conversation. Because in all honesty, what I discovered is that it's all me. Everything in my life is me. And I'm not saying it in a selfish way, because I care about people very deeply, but I know that at the end of the day, my fingerprints are on everything. Everything that's happening to me or happening through me, My fingerprints are on it all. And as soon as I accept responsibility for being the culprit of the cause of the things that are happening in my life, happening through my life, then I can regain the power to then right the ship where the ship is not sailing the way I want it to go.
Mm.
So the way we talk about work, and oftentimes we talk about it in a way to deflect responsibility. That's why we call it work. It's like somebody else is making us do it. Like, I'm doing the work. Right. I'm doing the work. Yes, a boss. Yes, a boss. I'm doing the work. You get what I'm saying? I mean, on the spiritual way, that's what it feels like. Because it feels like if somebody's making me do it, if I don't do it, then I'm going to be less than. I'm going to be this, that, and the other, and all that weight is attached to work. Right. So, yeah, me and Dustin jokes about that a lot. So he called me and said, "What you doing?" I said, "Working."
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I caught myself. I'm like, man, I
do.
Because it's really not that. Because I'm being in total honesty. Yeah. I haven't worked in a very long time.
Right.
I've been having so much fun. Oh my God. And here's the truth. The truth is, I have been in some cases afraid to say that I'm having fun. Out of having that thought of, oh, what if I start saying I'm having fun, then the shoe gonna drop? You can relate to that, right?
100%, man.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But, from the universe, right? But also from our colleagues in the organizing world too. Like, you better not have fun. This is not fun. Think about all those people that were enslaved for 400 years. Think about you know what I'm saying? Think about all the indigenous people that were wiped out. It's like you can't have fun because of this. This is nothing but seriousness, right?
Yeah, this is too serious. I mean, we're not here to be happy and have a good time and enjoy our life. We're here to fight.
That's right.
And that is the lie. That is the biggest lie. And I'm not saying that the people in the social justice movement are lying, because they were taught that too, just like I was taught it. And they repeat it just like we repeated it. But it's a lie coming from the world that we're here to fight. We ain't come here to fight. We're too powerful to even have to fight. Once we accept who we are and step into our power, there is no fight at all, because you're creating the fight anyway. So if you're creating the fight, imagine creating the heaven, the heaven while you live, right?
Right.
Let me tell you one of the things I envision. I'm so excited about it. Already started working on it, and that is building a school that's called the School of Endless Possibilities. Where kids come to be educated in a way where their minds are open wide to possibilities. And what they see is how to go out into the world and create what they desire versus fighting against what they don't want. Man, I'm so pumped about that. I'm having so much fun. I'm having fun. Think about every time we do these podcasts, it's fun. We're not working.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
We're not working. Let's get real. We're not working because we're having fun, because when you're really enjoying what you do, shouldn't it be fun? Shouldn't you be playing?
Yes.
Martin, I think that's the reason why we pay ball players so much money, because they playing.
That's our dream. Our dream is to make a living off of, because we get to watch them play, right? We get to watch them play. And they get to live the dream. That's the dream that we don't think we'll ever have, to be able to play what you love, the sport that you love, or to do the thing that you love your whole life. We've been conditioned to think that that's out of our reach, and that's reserved for just a few. It's the same thing for acting for me. I always wanted to be an actor, right? That's what I wanted to be. Right. I acted in children's theater when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I was good, right? And I remember, being like 14 or 15 or something like that, maybe even younger, and telling my mom and my dad that's what I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do, right?
Right.
And they took me to this. I can't remember what it was, but it was some type of a job fair or something like that. And they had all these statistics on how many people are going for the jobs and how many people actually can get it. And it was like 100,000 actors going for like 400 jobs. You know what I'm saying?
They do that on purpose. They did it on purpose.
Yeah, they did it on purpose, and they did it on purpose, and it fucking worked. It worked. I still tried, but it was like it got in my head. I went to school. To study education. Went to college to study education, and then I switched to theater because that's what I really loved. And I love those 2 years. I designed my own programs. I did everything, every aspect of theater you could ever imagine. I loved it so much. And then as soon as I moved to Seattle with the idea that I was going to be an actor and work in the theater, and I saw what the theater was, and I saw how hard it was going to be, all that old programming came back to me, and I bailed on it. I bailed on my dream. You
Yeah,
know,
I know your parents. I know you, and I know your parents loved you.
of
And that's what
course,
happens to the people that come before us. Sometimes they transfer their fears to us. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and the fear is you can't make a living off of doing what you love to do. That's the greatest fear I think that permeates in the minds of people. I can't make a living. I can't do well doing what I love, and that's a lie. It's a
mm,
lie. It's a lie. It's one of the greatest distractions going. One of the
yeah.
greatest distractions going. You know.
Yeah, there's another aspect to this too, right? Because I have that same feeling about professional actors as you do. As you talked about, I have it about athletes too. But I was never athletic, so I never even considered for a half a second that I would ever be a professional athlete. I know that was different for you, but I did consider for a lot of my young life that I would be a professional actor. But I think one of the misconceptions too is just because you have fun doing something and love doing it, it doesn't mean you're not going to also have to work at it. Like, I mean, the actors that are really successful work at their craft. The athletes, it's not just talent and skill, but I mean, look at what Michael
Well,
Jordan,
we're talking about this.
you know,
Aren't we talking about the
LeBron.
spirit of it all? Aren't we talking about
Yeah,
the spirit of it? Because
yeah,
see, we're not saying that you can't you're not going to do any work because you got athletes who they put a lot of work in, but it is they're doing what they love, so it's play.
mm,
Think about it. I mean, you think about Michael Jordan, for example, right? And how
mhm.
much time Michael Jordan put in. He rewrote the script in terms of the amount of time you put in to becoming great. He rewrote it, right? With the
Did.
Breakfast Club, when he started the Breakfast Club, started
Yep,
bringing
yep,
in personal coaches for him, the
yep,
hours he would spend on the court shooting the ball over and over and over and over again. I mean,
yep,
and then Kobe come along and it brought that standard to another level.
yep.
So it's work, but not really a drudgery kind of
Right,
work when you are doing it because you love it.
right.
I hated football. I was good in football. I was real good in football. I
Yeah.
hated it. I hated it
Hmm. Why?
because
Why'd
I
you hate
wasn't
it?
doing it for me. It wasn't something that I loved to do. And
Mm,
all of my friends around me used to, they wanted my life.
mm, mm,
They wanted my life. And I was like, shit, you could have had it. Because I was using football as leverage to get out of the condition that I was in. Me and my brothers were in, living in dire poverty, having to, haul water in a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket to be able to flush the toilet and to be able to boil water to cook food, living in the third world condition. I was using football as leverage. That's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do is what I'm doing now.
mm,
I'm on my real playing field now.
mm,
So, but I use football to get there because at first I didn't even know what this was that what we're doing now. I didn't even know what this was. This was a dream, kind of foggy dream that I had to get my head clear on, right?
mm,
But now look at us now, and we having fun.
mhm,
Right now we're
mhm,
talking to millions of people from around the
mhm.
world. We
Yes,
get an
sir.
opportunity to inspire people to go beyond what the world has said that they can do, and to believe in themselves in ways that they've never believed in themselves before, and to know that they have the power to do it.
Mm,
All they have to do is accept the fact of who they are. That's it. I'm telling you, that is the main ingredient. As you said before we got on the call, remembering and accepting.
and the third element is not having that feel like work, right? Not having to
Well, if
feel
you
like that's a
if I
struggle.
promise you, if you remember and you accept, it's going to stop being work to you.
Right, right.
It's going
Hmm.
to stop being work because what's making it work is the fact that you're leaving parts of yourself out.
Mm.
That's what makes it work. That's why it makes it feel like somebody is pushing you to do stuff, like somebody is supervising even when nobody's there. It's because you left a part of yourself out. When you start including all of yourself, that's when it becomes play. Because think about kids when they go out and play, right?
Hmm.
Are
Hmm.
they leaving any part of themselves out? You ever see any kids out there playing and like, oh, they're leaving any part of themselves? They're 100% in out there. 100%. You got to beg them to come back in the house. Why? Because they are fully engaged in their life. Beautiful thing, man.
It is beautiful. And what I want to hear, and I think what our listeners want to hear, is just be a little bit more specific when you say leaving out parts of yourself. What exactly does that mean, leaving out parts of yourself?
Well, let's talk about it like this. So there are aspects of ourselves that we have identified through comparison, through trying to please people, through criticizing, through trying to prove ourselves, that we secretly believe is not good enough. So there's aspects of ourselves like we're not pretty enough, we're not intelligent enough, we're not tall enough, we don't speak well enough, we don't do this enough, we don't do that enough, and it can go on and on and on. You can make up a list of things that we think we're not enough to fill up a tall tower building. It's all bullshit. It is those things that that causes us to reject aspects of ourselves, aspects of our expression. It makes us, like, for example, for years, I hated the sound of my voice. Now think about that. In the business that I'm in, the field that I want to play in, I hated the sound of my voice. Why did I hate the sound of my voice? Because I hated the way I looked. So if you hate the way you look, you're going to hate the voice that's coming from the look, right? So here I am. This is my work. This is what I really love to do. And man, and I don't like my voice. I'm constantly trying to change my voice. I'm constantly trying to sound like somebody else. And so it's work. That's a lot of hard work. I used to be exhausted. That's some exhausted shit. Trying to not be yourself.
Whew, tell me about it.
That's
the struggle, right?
And that's where it's all coming from.
That's where the struggle comes from, because we're literally trying to not be ourselves.
Yes.
Literally. And
that's what makes people exhausted. People be like, I'm so exhausted. Yeah. You are exhausted because you went to work inauthentic.
Right.
Which means you went to work not as yourself, trying not to be yourself at work. And you spent the whole day at work trying not to be yourself. Do you know how difficult that is? How much energy it takes for you to fight against the inertia that comes with just being who you already are?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
That's
a lot. That's work. That's work. Play is when that's work. Play is like when you accept yourself, right? And you finally get it. You look in the mirror and you get it. You know, I remember that day I looked in the mirror and I finally got my birthmark. I finally got it. I'm like, oh shit, no wonder I put a birthmark under my right eye. Because I want to buy myself some time to figure this out. So me having a birthmark kind of pushed people away from me for a while to give me a chance to figure it out. I set it up for myself. I was like, shit, I finally figured it out. Thank you, Mahdi, for setting that up for me. Because there's nobody else that set it up for me but me.
Right.
Teddy Bear Moses was set up by Teddy Bear Moses. You set this up for yourself.
Right.
Think about this. And people listening out there, just think about this for a minute. Think about the concept of being a spiritual being. What does that mean? Is there any spiritual being that's lacking anything? How would you answer that?
Of course not. I mean, it's well, first of all, I think you have to accept and just start to imagine what that means, right? Because I think we're so invested in the flesh. We're so invested in this being the beginning and the end to us, right? I mean, how many people listening right now, and it doesn't even have to be a conscious process, but how many of us listening right now are thinking to ourselves, life began when I was born and it's going to end when I die. So it's you have, before you can even answer that question, you have to even start to talk about and think about what is a spiritual being and how am I a spiritual being if I had a birth and I have a death?
Yes, that's a beautiful thing you're saying, Martin, because that's why we're saying the world is not coming to an end, it's coming to a zen. I mean, it's coming to where you sit with yourself and you get present to the reality of who you really are. And who you really are is an infinite, eternal being. An infinite, eternal being that has everything that it desires and has already done whatever it is you desire to have happen. It's already done. You just need to catch up with it. And the only way to catch up with it is to make the right spiritual adjustments. And that's what we haven't been doing. We haven't been making the spiritual adjustments. See, when we make the right spiritual adjustments, what it does is it puts us in the exact place we need to be in to finally do the biggest thing we have to do for ourselves that we've never done, and that is accept all of ourselves. All of it. All of it.
And what are the forces that are at work or at play that are trying to get us to not accept all of ourselves?
It's just
What is
one
that?
force. Us being infinite beings, we cannot say that there's something that is more powerful than us. You can't
Right.
say there's something more powerful than God. So that being the case, it is only us distracting ourselves. When we really get out of where we are now, you will see the truth. And the truth is that all masters know this. It's just you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You are a spiritual, eternal being. It's just you. Your fingerprint is on everything. And here's where the biggest struggle is accepting responsibility for being the one who set it up.
Mm-hmm.
We want to blame it on somebody else. We want to be able to point to somebody else. The reality is, you, infinite, eternal being, you did it to yourself. Not because you hate you, not because you're trying to harm you, because you're trying to set yourself up for the biggest experience, the biggest wow, the biggest like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. That's what you've been trying to set yourself up for. Imagine yourself on stage, Martin, in front of an audience of maybe 100,000 people in a stadium, and they're cheering for Martin Teddy Bear Moses. Wouldn't that be a wow?
That'd
And
be
I
fucking.
would be right there behind you, like, go Martin, go Moses, go Moses. You know what I'm saying? That's the
You
wow that
would
you've been
too,
setting
wouldn't
yourself
you?
up for. Yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
And and you know what? And that's the craziest thing too, because we've been so set up, I think, by ego. We've been so set up to think, that the people in our lives don't want that for us. That our brothers, our brothers by birth, our brothers by life, like, we're brothers by life. We're not brothers by birth. We're brothers in this journey, right? And but there's still this feeling like, oh, well, deep down inside, they don't want what's best for me. Deep down inside, and that's the trick, right? And that's the
Yeah, it is
trick,
a
is that
trick.
we don't believe that people really want to see us be at our full point of greatness.
Well, now the truth is that some people around you, in their current state of denial of self,
Yeah.
their denial of self makes them operate under their ego. And so ego will never be happy for anybody else that's doing well. That's not how ego works. The nature of ego is such that it's conflict oriented. It will always find something wrong and
Right.
always compares because it's always comparing. So when you start getting out of that, you reduce your ego, then you can like cheer for your friends and cheer for your family and like really mean it. Like, I really want people to do well. I want people to do so well. I want them to do better than me.
And nobody believes you. Nobody's going to believe you. Everybody's going to think you're running a scam because
Right.
because
But
we're
it's
not
true
used to
though.
people meaning that. But we're not used to people
Right.
meaning that.
I remember when you told me you moved to Florida, right? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. Man, I got so excited. I was pumped for days
I
off of
know
the
you were.
idea to move to Florida on the beach.
Hey,
You know what I'm saying?
we
And
that was the
now
butterfly.
you got your
That was the
Volvo.
butterfly
Man, what the
podcast,
hell?
man. That was the butterfly podcast. You
It
rode that
was. It
energy
was.
to like an amazing podcast that people still come and talk to us about. And
And guess what? That the energy for that podcast came from my excitement about you
right,
doing so well.
right,
Because I've
right,
seen you
right.
hustle. We're on the field getting off one plane after another, going to
Yeah.
one place after another. People don't understand what you give, what people like us give to
Mm,
life.
mm.
And to be able to see you be able to enjoy yourself, your wife, your life that you set up, man, that's a wonderful thing.
Hmm.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Daughter
It's a
too.
wonderful thing.
Daughter too, because she's a big
Yeah.
part of this equation as well. Maya's a big part of this equation as well. And I never
Yes.
imagined it for myself. Well, here's the thing, right? This is the thing. The thing is, my infinite self always imagined this for me, always wanted this for me. My ego self, my physical self, never thought I could be happy or that I deserved to be happy or that I could have a life without struggle. And
Right.
even this winter's been challenging for me in the sense, and I actually think I've created struggle for myself because I have guilt that I don't live in the North for the first time in my life. So I haven't, and it's been a really bad winter. Like, I want to say I survived the winter of 2021, 2020, 2021. I can't say that, my D. I can't say I survived. I survived the winter of 77, 78 in Cleveland, which was like the worst winter on history, Cleveland and Buffalo, hundreds of inches of snow. That's a point of pride for me. I actually think I've like almost sabotaged myself because I'm so uncomfortable with ease. My ego is so uncomfortable with ease.
You know what? I went to a landmark education process. I went through, some of their training programs. And one of the questions that they asked that was like, at that time for me, was sort of mind blowing was, how good can you stand it?
Mm.
I was like, what?
Hmm.
And then I let it set on me. And I was like, oh my God. What I realized at that time was that I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it to be too good. Because the minute things got too good, I would start sabotaging it and making it bad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I had to get into the flow of a greater capacity for goodness and greatness and joy and happiness and really just be open to the reality that this is my life now. I'm not going back to hell. I found the way out. I am not going back. It took me years to find the way out of hell. And now that I have the key out of hell, I'm willing to sell it to anybody who wants it. And I say sell it because it ain't going to be something that you give away. You don't give the key out of hell away. And I'm going to tell you why you don't give it away. Listen, because some people are not going to get this. Because if you give it away, then you're taking off of it the lessons that you need to have in order to learn how to work the key.
Mm.
Yeah, I went to hell. I went to hell. I consciously went to hell. I was not asleep when I went to hell. In other words, I was fully conscious of who I was when I went to hell. And that's the only way you get out of hell. You got to go conscious. And it's painful when you go to hell conscious.
Mm.
Some people live in hell every day, but they sleeping. They sleeping in hell. In other words, they're unconscious. Their ignorance is bliss. They don't know no better. It's another thing to go to hell and be conscious while you're there. You know what is happening to you. You see it, and you still got to figure out, how do I get myself back to heaven?
That sounds familiar to me right now. Keep going. Keep going.
Doesn't it sound familiar?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of feels like I might be doing that right now. But keep going.
You feel what I'm saying?
I do.
So, but we can get ourselves out. We can get ourselves out.
Yeah.
And like I said, I got the key. I got the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited about having the key too.
Yeah. Sharing it with people that are ready to do the work to get it or be
Yeah,
in the
but
process.
we can't give the key away free because they're
I
going to
understand.
devalue it. Because all their life they've learned to put value on the things that have high price tags. If you give it
Yeah.
away free, you're going to devalue it. They're not going to appreciate it at all.
Yeah.
Free is a dirty word, to be honest with you. Free is a dirty word. In
Yeah.
a world full of infinite beings that are taking on human bodies, free is a dirty word because what it does, it cuts into your creative power.
Mm.
It cuts down on your creative power. We have the ability to create whatever we want.
Mm.
We got to be fighting with nobody. We could create a world. We could construct a new world in tomorrow.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that out of ego or being braggadocious or anything. I'm telling you, an infinite being can create endless possibilities. Matter of fact, Martin, you and I and everybody on this call, everybody listening to this podcast, are infinite possibilities.
Mm.
You are an infinite possibility. That's what we are.
Mm-hmm.
As eternal spiritual beings, we are infinite possibilities. Now go smoke that on you. Go put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Remembering and accepting, right? Remembering and
Remember and
accepting.
accept it.
We got to remember that
You
we
are.
are limitless possibilities and then accept that
Yes,
we
we
are
are
limitless
endless
possibilities.
possibilities. We are endless possibilities. It's not something that we have to create. It's something that we already are. Remember it, accept it. Start looking at yourself in the mirror. When you look at yourself in the mirror, see the endless possibility that you are. Because that's what you are, that endless possibility.
Well, that's beautiful. And we're gonna end on that note because I think it's a beautiful note to end on. And to our listeners, we hope you were listening, like not just with your ears, but with your whole bodies, right? Because you have to
Yes.
listen with your whole body to hear that you're an endless possibility. And if you're
Mm.
struggling with that, and I struggle with it, I'm transparently, I do struggle. If you're struggling with it, where's that struggle coming from that you wouldn't accept a beautiful reality that you're an endless possibility? And I think
Right.
just really maybe sitting with that, right? Just taking a moment and just
All right.
sitting with why thou
Can
can
I say
struggle.
this no
Please
more?
do. Please do. Please do.
Take the word struggle and throw it in the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
Because our language is our steering wheel.
Mm.
Whatever language we use will turn the steering wheel in that direction. So if it's a struggle, you've already turned it into struggle. I
Yes.
am enjoying the ride. I'm joy riding, bro.
Mm.
I want y'all to come join me in the joy ride. We're gonna do some joy riding. You feel what I'm
Mm.
saying? And we're gonna joy ride to the exact place we want to go. Because joy riding, the steering wheel is going to fun, it's going to relaxation, it's going to creation. Because here's what I do. I tell people this all the time, and this is what I've been practicing for a while. When I want something and I may not have the resources, the physical resources at the moment, instead of asking myself, what do I need to sacrifice? What do I need to cut back on? I never do that anymore. What I ask myself is, what can I create to produce what I desire? And it is not a time that I ask myself, what can I create to produce what I desire, that I don't create something that produces the material that I need for what I desire.
Mm.
It's all there, but you got to ask yourself for it. You've been asking the wrong people for it. Ask your eternal self for
Right.
what you desire. It will gladly give it to you. After all, it is you.
So that's what we want. That's what we want our listeners to do, right? We want our listeners to ask themselves, how do you create what you really want?
Yes. Not
How do
how.
you
Not
create it?
how. Hold up.
Now say
Back it
it.
up. Not how.
All right, all
Not
right, all
how.
right. Say it. Yeah, you say it. You say it. I'm gonna step back.
What can I create? What can I create to have what I want?
Mm.
Not how, because we're not in the business of how. That is your infinite self business.
Mm.
Your infinite self will figure out how. Your job is not, because your ego will make a muck out of it. And if
Mm.
you can't figure out how, your ego will say, you don't know what you're doing. You're wasting your time. Don't even try that because you can't see how in your mind. It's not your job. Just
Mm.
ask your infinite self, what can I create to produce
Mm.
what I desire? And your infinite self will give it to you. And you'll start creating it. And with no time at all, you'll have what you desire. But you got to ask what, not how, because it ain't your job. Too many variables got to go into it. You're going to mess it up.
Mm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I thank you. I thank our listeners. Our listeners thank you. I can hear them. I can hear them thanking you from all over the world, for sharing that knowledge and helping all of us to create new realities, right? It's the
Yes. Endless
creation of the
possibility.
realities we truly desire.
Yes.
And as you can hear, dear listener, I come to a place where I'm still in the process of remembering and accepting, and I'm not going to pretend I'm not in a place where I'm not. So, I feel blessed to have had this conversation with you, Ragivah Mahdi, and we thank all of you for listening, each and every one of you. We ask you to come and see our website if you haven't already been there at soulfocusgroup.com. Listen to all of our podcasts. We're getting quite the library now, quite the back library of podcasts. So come and listen to our podcast on your Apple Podcasts or your Google Podcasts, your Spotify Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. We're building our YouTube library as well right now, and we want you to stay safe and we stay well. And most of all, Ragivah Mahdi, we want everybody to stay soul focused.
Soul focused.
If you wish to support and represent the Soul Focus Group, check out our apparel store at our website, www.soulfocusgroup.com/shop.